Welcome to Slay, the podcast where we dive into all aspects of female health, fitness, and life. I'm your host, Louise Hazel, and in today's episode, we'll be diving into the topic of personal growth, wellness, and self-love. Today, we have an incredible guest who embodies the journey of personal transformation and resilience. She'll be sharing her story of how she's navigated her own life's challenges, embraced her spirituality, and has continuously evolved both personally and professionally. Her story is a testament to the power of women and the importance of self-love and an unwavering commitment to personal growth. She's achieved major success as a personal development coach and hosts an empowering and award-winning podcast. So, whether you're facing your own challenges or simply seeking inspiration to elevate your life, this episode is for you. Get ready to be moved and empowered. Joining us today is the founder of The Life Edit, The Modern Tarot, and co-founder of Almost 30 podcast. It's Krista Williams. Krista.
So happy to be here. Sometimes when people do my intro, I have to tune in and tune out because I'm like, it's too much.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy.
I
also,
love it.
I'm wearing my tracksuit and I'm like, I hope there's no sound. I was like,
You're ruffling
literally,
over
I was like, I don't think I can move this whole podcast now.
I wonder why you were just literally
No,
just
literally, I was
deadpan.
like this. I'm like, because I didn't want to be the sound, but I was like, I
love
want to be
it.
tracksuity for this pod.
I love it. And what tracksuit it is.
Isn't it sick?
Absolute flame.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here.
I
It was so
know.
good to meet you. I know we met years ago, but you are just such an incredible woman, and I was so honored to be invited on your show. And yeah, I'm really excited to dive in today.
Oh, what a pleasure. We're going to dial it all the way back though, Krista, because I always want to start with like your story
Yeah.
and how you came to be where you are today. Because you weren't always like, self-employed. You had a normal job, let's say normal job.
Yeah.
But what did that look like for you, and what led to this transition?
Yeah, so I had many a normal job. So I was living a very normal life. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. No one really had dreams. No one really wanted to be anything or do anything. It was pretty small-minded. And for most of my life, I was probably happy on the outside, but I was like dying on the inside. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to feel like I had purpose. I wanted to feel like I was here for a reason. Like there was always this like tension within me where I was like, oh, this just doesn't feel right. Whether it was in high school or college, doing the same old things, drinking, going out, like I was just always like unhappy inside. I got my first job outside of college, and that unhappiness really culminated in this like rock bottom moment where I remember waking up one morning and I had such bad anxiety during that time that I woke up and for like 30 seconds, I didn't have the anxiety. And I was like, oh my God, it's not here. Like I felt the freedom. And then it came and the loop thoughts started happening. And I thought about killing myself because I had been at a point where I was so depressed. I was so unhappy. I was so anxious. I had struggled with mental health my whole life. And I was like, what is the point of life? Like I'm at this job that I hate. I have a relationship that I don't feel aligned to. I'm not happy in my body. I don't see a purpose of being here. Nothing's really giving me life. And from that moment, I decided to quit my job. I lived in Patagonia for a few months, and I really started to make changes in my life that led eventually to the transformation you see today. It was like hitting rock bottom, knowing I had to change, choosing something hard, and then just following my intuition throughout the path in my life. So that means that I was at different jobs. I eventually quit to start Almost 30 with my best friend. We've been doing Almost 30 for about 8 years now. And then now I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I do retreats, and really just am intuitively led to share my gifts in the way that is most supportive of the world. And I'm so grateful. It never gets past me that I get to live a life that I love and really do what my dharma is here to work with women.
I love it. What was the job that you were doing when you were at rock bottom? And what was it about that job that didn't feel aligned with you at the time?
So I was in finance management consulting, which is that whole thing. So it was working with high-powered executives in finance. And what made me want to leave that job was actually I was involved in a sexual harassment case with my boss. So I worked with this man at my company, and he was witness to another one of the executives in the way that he spoke to me and filed a sexual assault case on my behalf. And so this case went on for a little bit, and it was just horrible and uncomfortable, and I felt shame and I felt guilt and all of these things. It was mainly just about comments he would say and things he would do that were just kind of weird. But to be honest, at that point in time in my life, I had been so programmed that I thought it was normal.
Right.
I thought it was just men. Like, I really didn't know anything was bad. I'm like, this is how men have talked to me my whole life. This is sort of normal. And so it just got to the point where I was like, something's telling me I need to go and something's telling me I need to leave. And when one day I decided to quit, I knew I needed to make a change. And so that led me to move to New York after living in Patagonia for a few months. And I found my then husband when I was in New York.
Amazing. How brave of you, first and foremost. I recently had to kind of be a testimony in a sexual harassment case, a sexual abuse case in athletics, a really high profile case. And so you always feel like you're the person that is being always cross-examined. And I feel like, we women, it's one thing for, shit to happen to us. It's another thing to have to deal with being a victim and the way that people treat you. What do you think that people can do in the workplace to make sure that whole experience is not one that is super traumatic beyond obviously the initial trauma that you suffered?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question, and no one's ever asked me that, so I'm grateful to have the time to reflect on it. So what was the most traumatizing about it was that the woman that interviewed me about the case was a managing director. And I felt so judged by her, and I felt she was probably the worst part of it because I felt so alone. I felt like I had done something wrong. I felt like there was something wrong with me. I felt so much guilt and shame, and it just made me want to not talk. It made me want to not share. It made me feel like something's wrong with me. So, people say this, and I think it's overused, and I think there's nuance in every situation, but believe people when they say, and believe people when they share. And I think too, hopefully now in corporate culture, we understand what's right and what's wrong a little bit more so. I was in a space where it was mostly men. It was finance. It was in Chicago at the time. So there was a lot of gray area, and you were kind of working with like these weird power dynamics of the women that would work there. And so it was more in the culture to be like that. So I think now culture has changed a lot. Conversations have changed a lot. I think calling things out when you see them is really helpful, especially for the women that are at equal levels with the men. And really making it more obvious, like how culture should be and what is right and what is not right.
I was just thinking as you're saying there, like, is it our job as women to have to educate men as to how to behave?
I know.
Because I feel like, calling out when it happens, if you're in a work environment and somebody says something inappropriate to you, do you just pull them aside and be like, hey, Jeff, what you said was really inappropriate. I'm going to have to speak to such and such or whatever, in future, it's like, but is that even our job? Should we even have to do that as part of our, guys? I'm not saying that it doesn't happen the other way around, but we know that the majority of these cases are, women are in the victim role. And I say that to say, like, why is it that we have to think about that as well as, your the day-to-day stresses of your everyday career and work.
And that's so much, there's the experience of being a woman, there's experience of being a woman of color. Like the amount of things that you have to think about and do is so challenging. But what I'll say is that I'm interested in what's most effective as far as communication. And I think a lot of people would probably disagree with my approach, but I would be a fan of approaching a man that makes a comment or says something with like kindness and like a little bit of jest to like call to attention in a way that they're going to be able to metabolize and not shut down and turn even more dark and seedy about what they're doing. Because if you can kind of bring away an approach that they're going to be able to see it, but like it's also direct, I think that's going to work the best. But it has to be something you feel resourced for. You know what I mean? That you feel like, okay, I'm resourced for this. Like I'm ready to do this. And it's not everyone's responsibility to do. It's not everyone's responsibility to teach. But unfortunately, we are in a culture where I do think men are sort of reacclimating to the new world where women are incredibly empowered and we're no longer going to be in receipt of like that unconscious weirdness that we used to take on so much of.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, men are having to relearn what it is to exist in a society where women are strong, highly communicative and are seen as peers. And no longer like subordinates.
Yes.
Talk to me about your anxiety and how it was showing up and how it was representing itself for you and showing up for you at that time. Like, what were you experiencing?
Yeah, I didn't really know it was anxiety at that time. I was in like, I was probably in my early 20s. And my mom had struggled her whole life with anxiety and depression. And so she would describe it, and I wouldn't really know what she was talking about. But when I would look back, I was feeling like that most of my life. And so the way my anxiety felt was this constant loop thought and conversation that I was out of control of, that I could not stop. Like I would be existing here, but my mind was like, what is my purpose? What am I doing here? It was just like, it could not allow me to be present. I could not actually be engaged in a conversation. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't really work. Like I would just be so out of my body and so discombobulated. And I felt like there was something that was in control of my life and it wasn't me. And it's a miserable way to be. Like, I'm so grateful that I meditate every day and I do everything. I haven't felt anxiety in many years because of the practices that I take on. But for people that have anxiety and now that's exacerbated with social media, it's horrible. Like, but I personally am someone that believes that you can work with anxiety and depression naturally by changing your lifestyle and changing the way that you operate.
Do you remember a moment when the anxiety stopped or slowed down or became more silent? Was there a moment?
That's a really great question. So it was beautiful because I quit my job. My anxiety was so bad. When I went to Patagonia, this man taught me how to meditate on the trip. So I started meditating then when I was like in my early 20s. And it was probably a moment of meditation, of like keep coming back to that. And I just felt like more spaciousness and more peace and more of myself and more of like my ability to interject my own soul self into my life rather than the anxiety kind of running everything. So I don't remember a moment, but I do remember like a slow dissolving of the anxious feelings and thoughts that I had.
You talk about a dissolving of self.
Yeah.
Now, I don't feel like there's, any more, I don't feel like you can feel any more dissolved than in the breakdown of a relationship.
Yeah.
Now, you separated from your husband, who you said you guys have, have managed to be on, stay on great terms and in communication with. And I remember seeing the post on social media and I immediately just
announcing?
Yeah. And I just immediately felt like a pang of just heartache for you. But also the way that you presented that information to the world and your followers and just felt so freaking healthy. I was like, wow, like the amount of work that you guys must have done together to be able to announce your separation in that way, but in a really supportive way. And it was like you were both, journeying through that together.
Yeah.
And so my question is like, we talk about self-love, but how the heck, like how do we really love ourselves when we're going through like the biggest heartbreaks in our life? I feel like these are the times when, you have the most self-doubt. And how's that been for you?
It's huge. And thank you for that reflection. You never know how people are perceiving it. You never know what people are taking. Some people aren't cool with divorce. Some people, have thoughts and perceptions about it. But just for background for the people listening, so we were together for 10 years. We started dating when I was like 25, all the way till like 35. We were incredibly close. He was very much a soulmate of mine, but we eventually grew apart. In my work and what I do, I'm changing so much. I am personal growth. I am self-development. I'm never going to stop growing, changing, or evolving. And it felt like I sort of was doing it a little bit too much on my own, and we were never able to come together. Conflict resolution was also not something we had really well. Our communication wasn't really well. So during the process of our divorce, we did it very consciously. I never in my life thought I would have a conscious breakup. Like, girl, I was the one.
Conscious uncoupling.
Oh, yeah. I was like, the men hate me, would never talk again. Like, I'm the enemy. Like, it was cheating. Like, I've never healthily broken up with someone. And I didn't really like plan on it. I wasn't like, we're going to healthily break up. Like, I just was like, I'm going to do whatever it is I need to do to make sure that I'm turning myself inside out in this breakup to be sure that I'm doing the right thing. Because we were married. Like, it's not a joke to be married. Like, it's real and it's truthful and it was honest and I committed. And so in the process of it, I was doing everything. I was like doing all the work, the therapy, the like da-da-da-da. And so in the process of the uncoupling, I became so clear on my decision and what I needed to do. And it was like a drop in of my soul being like, yeah, this is right. And so in the process, it became beautiful because we were both so clear in like the most honest and beautiful way. And so we were able to have like a conscious process of like, I love you so much, you love me so much, but this isn't working anymore. And then when you're a public figure, you have to share. You have to share publicly. Like I'd talked about my wedding, I'd talked about him, so we shared about it online. But for your question about the self-love part when you're going through a breakup, my breakup has helped me love myself in a way that I would never be able to if I had stayed in that relationship. A breakup can be the thing that is the unlock to the deepest self-love of your life, because that relationship, as beautiful as it was so fucking painful for me and so out of authenticity and so out of alignment. And I was not being myself, and I was holding back, and I was restricting, and I was just, it was fucking painful. So to be like, I'm going to choose the hard thing. I'm going to choose the thing that I know is going to be best for me. You can't love yourself more than when you're choosing the hard thing and like you're doing it for your own best interest. So it was like the best. Like I honestly, it's been painful, but I've had the most beautiful breakup experience of being like, what do I want to do? How do I want to live my life? Like it's a completely new, especially when you're married, opportunity to like create a life that you love. Like I had a life on one path: buy a house, have a kid with this man, do my thing. And that path is done. Now what? Like, what do I, Krista, in this moment want to do? And it's been so beautiful. So I get it with breakups, really having it be something that makes you hate yourself and really judge yourself or criticize yourself. But like, it also can be the thing where you're like, oh my God, this is like my time to be with myself, to sculpt a life, to sculpt a new self-love, to sculpt a new experience that I wouldn't have had if I was bumping up against someone for so long.
That is deep. What did you learn about yourself?
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with myself. It's crazy. I love myself so much. Like I just enjoy my own company so much. I'm so grateful for a deep self-love that I have. But what I learned about myself was that, the patterns and dynamics I were in were the deepest things of my life. Deep codependency, deep, I'll say a little bit of narcissism. Like I had always been with narcissists in my life, and, not saying that he was, but the relationship dynamic we cultivated where he was is in that dynamic a little bit, where it was like he was avoidant. It kind of was. So coming out of that and being like, I've actually never been myself. I've always been myself in relation to other people.
Got you.
I've always given my power away. I've always prioritized their comfort over my own. So I was like, dude, I felt like a new person. I'm like, oh, this is the first time I'm actually knowing who I am, not in relation to someone else. Have you ever had codependency, or like, do you ever?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tons of it.
Yeah.
I'd say, Eric and I have this conversation all the time about codependency. I'm like, are we codependent?
I actually can't wait. I can't
no
wait to be
idea.
codependent with my husband, like in a healthy, conscious way.
Yeah, I feel like we have more like of a healthy. He's standing over there like shaking his head. He's like, hell no. I feel like we have a healthy codependency.
If you're talking about it, you probably don't. You know what I mean? Like, but that's the thing is like when you're younger, as a kid, you're like, codependency is like the goal. You're like, I want to lose myself in this relationship. I want to like depend, and like, but it's like when codependency is a psychic, unconscious adjusting and contorting for the other person, and not like a conscious like, babe, I really count on you. Like you guys are like, I really count on you.
No, we don't have that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I'll go watch my thing. He'll go watch his thing. It's like I'll see you in the kitchen. You know what I mean? I'll see you
have
when
partnership.
You're done. Yeah. We work well together. And we found out actually just yesterday, the thing about marriage and the thing about being in relationship with one another is you're doing a lot of these things as well for the first time. So we're about to take our first proper vacation. Yesterday we did like our first ever kind of like business event together. And I'm like, oh, damn, that's who I'm married to? Okay.
Isn't that the best?
Okay, yeah.
The best.
And there were women coming up to me yesterday and saying, I picked a good one. And I was like, yes, I did.
That's the best.
Yes, I did.
And when you can be conscious, like, yo, you're the best, just like in loving relationship and like discovering new things with your partner is so much fun.
So, you're going through this process of divorce, but you're finding out more about yourself as a person. But what tools do you feel like you relied on during those times that you perhaps didn't know you had, or was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be fine?
Yeah. So therapy, it's like cliche, but I had been for years like afraid of therapy. My best friend, Lindsay, my podcast co-host, she would go to therapy and I was like, I don't trust them.
Really?
Like my trust issues are fucking deep.
Wow.
Dude. Like
that surprises me so much, Krista, because you are like the healing circle goddess. You're
I
the
know.
person who brings people around to therapize.
Yep.
You
But I'm
know?
in control.
Aha.
You know,
I see.
I can be trusted now. I trust women, but there was something about it where I was like, I don't trust them. This was years ago, but so my therapist was just incredibly helpful in my process, and then also too parts work. So I do this psychotherapy technique with the women that I coach. It's called parts work. It's internal family systems, and it's really beautiful because in parts work, it's basically the belief that we can have multiple experiences at one time. And so the brain thinks in multiples.
Yes.
So as the example in the divorce, I can have my deep grief about losing my husband. And then also I can have this excitement about like hooking up with some dude I meet. You know what I mean? It's like, how can we be with and be like, spend a day with her that's like really grieving and be in full experience of that. And then in the next moment, maybe next half an hour, be fully in the excitement. And my ability to kind of be present for what was and fully feel things really helped me, because I think a lot of times people lie to themselves, or they'll kind of avoid feeling, or they won't really be able to ground in one feeling enough to feel it. And so they'll just kind of avoid and numb and move around unconsciously.
Definitely. I can honestly say, like, my own experience of like loss and grief is one that is just so colorful. And I feel like there's, you know, nothing else kind of like explains that human condition other than duality. One minute you can be crying tears of sadness, the next minute you can remember a memory and have like tears of joy. But yeah, what a beautiful
Isn't
thing.
it? I mean, I know you've mentioned your mother, and my dad's sick, and seeing that like process is like, I'm like so grateful to God. I'm like, thank you for showing me this like aspect of humanity, of being with someone as they're dying. Like, and I say that like, not even, you know, that's probably annoying to some people, but like, it's crazy because some moments you're just desperate and you're so sad, and the next you're like, yeah, it is what it is. And the next you're like, oh, I love him. It's just wild.
Yeah, there's this like I think as a person who loves control, I think when it comes to life and mortality, it's the ultimate surrender.
Yes.
And that's where you're just not in control whatsoever. And for me, like also, you know, a person who Olympian, all those things, bits and bobs, but complete like control maniac. I've learned the most about myself through all of my life's losses.
Yes.
The most, not the wins, definitely the losses.
Yep. I need God to be like every once in a while, like, I'm the boss. Like, you think you're doing it all, but like, I'm the boss.
Yeah. And then God's like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about losses. Let's talk about that body.
My body.
Yeah. So you talked openly on social media, on your platform, about suffering from body image issues. Yeah. Super open. But I feel like recently you seem to have locked this balance in your life that seems to really be working for you. What's changed?
Girl, I mean, I never in my life thought I would be at a place where I love my body. Like, I remember one moment, it was probably like 2018, walking across my apartment and just being like, yeah, I think I'm going to live my entire life with the constant criticism and conversation about how much I weighed and the way that I looked and what I needed to do to lose weight and how much I had eaten and my calories and my workout and all these things. And even when I met you, like, I had a completely different body and relationship to it. And for backstory, I'm someone that grew up with a mother that was incredibly focused on body and looks and weight. It was like such a priority in our home. So a part of me realized that in order to be loved, I had to be thin. In order to be loved, I had to be attractive. So that program was running in the background for my whole life. I had, you know, restricted, I had binged, I had done diet pills, I had taken people's Adderall, I had done all of these things to change my body. And I think after my divorce, it was something where like the grief of the divorce and my focus on what was going on sort of shifted my mind to that as the most important thing rather than my body. So it's almost like this part of me came forward that was like, there's enough pain and grief right now that we can shift our focus here away from the body. And it gave me this sense of freedom where I could just focus on healing this heartbreak that I had rather than the constant, like, noise. What's my workout? Yeah, the noise that I had been experiencing, and really heal that relationship I had with my body. And what I also read was this amazing book by this woman named Janine Roth. So for anyone listening, do you know Janine Roth?
No, I haven't.
She's amazing. It's called Women, Food, and God. And it's just the best book ever. And it really talks about the fact that like the value of a soul cannot be put into like a number on a scale. The value of our
100%.
soul
Amen.
is so much greater than what our body looks like. And when I know the multiplicity and the multidimensionality and the magic that I've experienced in my life, and when I know how powerful I am, and then I'm like, yeah, and I have to be 5 pounds lighter and I have to be, it's like, what are you talking about?
Yes.
Like,
Absolutely.
this is ridiculous. And so realizing the power of my soul and this beautiful life experience that I had just gave me like an ability to step off that gas of my body. And then I was able to really become free.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Like I wish I have these conversations with, not just our clients in the gym,
Of
but
course.
online every single day. And I just wish that there was, I wouldn't say a shortcut because I don't think there's anything good to come of a shortcut, but I wish that there was much more of a clearer path for women to be on in order to get to a place where they can really talk about their bodies from a place of positivity and love and appreciation.
Yep.
I love that. Name one thing that you would never go back to for your body.
Ooh, that's such a good one. So the things that I were doing was just all too much. Like it was just all freaking too much all the time. I would say, I think one of my rock bottom moments was I was in Mexico traveling. I don't know what I was doing there, but I saw a pharmacy at the airport and was like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, what can I get at this pharmacy? And I had heard that thyroid medication, this was years and years ago, helped you lose weight. And so I was like, I'm going to buy thyroid medication at this Mexican pharmacy because it's probably going to help me lose weight. Like maybe I have a thyroid issue, maybe I don't. So I got this like stack of thyroid medication. And I went up to the counter and he's like, what's the milligrams that you need? And I literally pulled the number out of my ass and was like 50. He's like, perfect, here's 50. And so I bought stacks of a year's worth of thyroid medication. I went home to my house and I was just like sitting with it and I'm like sitting with it. And I just eventually never took it. But the pills that I was taking, like the extremes that I was doing, just harming my body in this way, I would literally never do again. Like the gentleness that I approach my body and the way that I'm just like so tender and loving and grateful for the way that it is with me, knowing that my body is like my best friend. Like it has been with me through everything. It is always trying to do right by me. Each time I do something, it's trying to balance. Like my hip's been bothering me, like I was telling you.
Yep.
I have parts of my body that have been adjusting to help support me in my hip issue for months. Like it's always trying to find balance. So I think the extremes I would completely let go of.
And what's the new balance look like for you?
So the new balance in like the food freedom, which I didn't know was ever possible, to be honest, really looks like, in a weird way, it sounds bad, but like a loosened reins where I probably don't eat as good as I used to. But because I'm eating from a genuine desire of like, what do I want? I don't eat as much. I slow down. I enjoy it. I metabolize it. I digest it. So I definitely eat probably worse. I definitely have more desserts, more sweets. I drink sometimes now. I didn't drink for a long time. But because my intention and the energetic resonance of me and the food is so much better, it just handles and sits better, and my body just feels way better than it did before.
Now, you recently said on Instagram, how we are with food is how we are with life. What did you mean by that post, and what led you to post it?
Yeah, so I was just thinking about we live in LA. Like people are just, girl,
It's a bubble.
How many dinners I've been to where no one eats? How many dinners I've been to where people only eat lettuce? How many dinners I've been to where people only eat meat? How many parties I've been to where the cake sits there? How many parties I've been to where no one touches anything? Like, it is like, girl, it is crazy. And I just remember I was sitting next to this girl at this party, and stunning, beautiful girl, super, super sweet. Didn't, eat a single thing the entire night, whatever. I'm fine with that. But like, I was just feeling herself so constricted and holding herself back in so many different ways. And I thought about all the things I had done in my life where I had held myself back from speaking the truth. I had restricted myself. I had constricted myself. I had restricted. I had binged, overindulged. And I really think when we approach food, this like energetic frequency of nourishment, like this thing that's made and designed just for us by God to like feed and fuel us, when we are counting it, picking it, controlling it, trying to like do all of this thing to it, There's no way we're not going to be like that in life. People are so controlling. Women are so controlling. If you're trying to control your food, you're probably trying to control your life. If you're trying to restrict yourself, you're probably holding yourself back in so many ways. So how you do anything is how you do everything. So when we look at this relationship with food, we can really think about like, where else am I doing these things in my life?
Maybe those are the habits that we need to kind of let go of.
Yes.
I've got another question for you. What the hell is sober curious? Like, what the fuck's that?
Do you drink?
No, I don't drink at all.
Totally.
Pure and simply because, well, I mean, my drinking consists of like, I'll have a glass of wine. I'll always get poured wine at an event, and I might have this much.
Yeah.
And I'll have a hangover for a week. So I'm probably still drunk now because I drank about 3 weeks ago.
That's why you've been so smooth.
Yeah, I typically don't drink. Like, you know, I'll always do a toast to someone's birthday or whatever. But like, no.
Not interesting.
Alcohol in my body, no.
Yeah.
It's just
I think probably I would assume for you, like you're so in tune with your body. Like you have to, like it's your job to be in touch and in conversation. So when you drink, it's like you're out of your body. Yeah, you're not present. Like you're just, I remember, but in the Midwest, honey, where I grew up.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, girl, the way that people drink is insane.
Wait. I grew up in England in a pub.
You're right.
My parents owned a pub. So
you went.
There you go.
It's maybe darker.
Yeah.
It's maybe darker. I think yours is longer and more drawn out and more constant. In Ohio and the Midwest, it's like getting blacked out. It's like going harder, deeper. Yeah.
Wow.
It's like harder, deeper, more frequency, kind of like that vibe. I'll never forget one time we were at a party in Ohio and I was with my ex. And these guys were like, yo, remember last night you woke up in the middle of the street and the cops came and you couldn't even move. And we're going on.
Of course he doesn't remember last night.
Of course. And my ex was like, hey, you know that's not normal, right? He's like, this whole thing isn't normal. People don't act that way. And I'm like, okay. So my culture was just drinking all the time. And I would drink, I would black out, I would do my thing. And when I was living in Chicago, I remember one morning I met up with a friend and she saw me and she's like, do you remember seeing me last night?
Oh, wow.
And the look on her face was just horrified. She was like, dude. And I think maybe it was ego of being like embarrassed, but there was something about it where I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to look ugly. I don't want to look bad. And I looked at everyone feeling weird. And so when I was 26, I stopped drinking, which wasn't normal, like at the time. So I stopped drinking from like 26 to 33, probably didn't drink at all. Like very weird. People questioning me all the time. People so odd about what I was doing. And now I'll drink every once in a while just for like a balance thing to really enjoy. But sober curious is basically the experience of being more conscious about your drinking, being more mindful about why you're drinking. Like you said, if I'm doing a toast, I'll have champagne. That feels right for me. That feels good. There's something about that. If I'm at a party, I'll have a few sips because it feels right. It's like, how can I be in consciousness about it instead of like, I want to hide. I don't want to feel. I'm uncomfortable. Like, what are the weird unconscious reasons you're drinking? But instead making it like a relationship that really serves you.
Would you say that you consciously uncoupled from alcohol?
Yeah, that's a good one. I would. Yeah. I was like very like, this is not working for me. This is not. Also, something woke up in me at that time. I really had an awakening because I'm like, I make nothing and I'm spending $200 a weekend on alcohol. I feel terrible. My skin looks bad. My digestion's bad. It was not serving my anxiety. So I was like, I need to do something. And yeah, I definitely had like a conscious uncoupling of like, yeah, this isn't serving me anymore. And we need to part ways for a while. Yeah.
Real. Now, talk to me about the life edit. What is it? I'm super curious. I kind of know what it is, but I kind of don't know what it is.
I know. It's one of those like nebulous things. So basically, the story behind it was like 2019 and I was down bad that year. You know, we and my ex were just really in it. I didn't know I wanted to leave and I was so depressed and I decided to stay home for the holidays in LA. My family is elsewhere and I was just like, feeling my lowest. And I was like doing visualizations and I was just sitting in my chair and I was laying in my bed for fucking hours a day. And I was like visualizing my dream life. I was like, I'm in Malibu. I was like, and it felt so weird that I was trying to change my life by being in my head, but taking no action. I was like, how does this work? Like, how am I actually making progress on my life by being in my head for hours at a time? Doesn't make sense to me. So I was like, you know what? Like, I need to edit on my life. What is the control that I can take? Controlling person. What is the action I can take today that I know is going to make a difference? How can I move my body? How can I be in constant motion in my life? And so the Life Edit was born. And it's basically different modules for different areas of our life. So there's a digital edit where you basically look at consciously your digital footprint, especially for someone like you, a public figure. Like, what is your Instagram profile photo picture? Does it represent you today? What is your Facebook? Is it still live? What does your Pinterest board say? Like, if someone were to Google you, what's going on?
Absolutely.
How can I update that to be the person that I am?
Mess.
A hot girl. I deleted my Pinterest. It was like all my wedding photos the other day. I was like, fuck, I need to like clean up. Like, and then you go to the home, and then you go to wellness and relationships, and basically it's all areas of your life, just kind of like taking an edit, like looking at everything with a fine tooth comb and really seeing if it aligns to the future version of you.
You know, the funny thing is we've been doing this at Slay. We've been doing it for our clients. We're putting a course together. And when I was like, oh, I see it.
I love it.
You know, one of the things I feel like we run into the most at the gym is the fact that, you know, when it comes to our fitness goals and health goals, that's literally like plunking another big problem on your plate. And we have so much already. And so we kind of started to identify, like, actually, if we can make these other pieces of our life run smoother, then we actually have time to take care of ourselves. We have time for the self-care. We have time for the self-love, but we must first make more space for it.
Yeah, that's
so
huge.
When I saw that in you, I was like, oh, this is these going through a phased approach and looking at every kind of aspect of your life and what needs cleaning up is a humongous spring clean. I feel like anybody wanting to make any huge transformations, career, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, needs to kind of address.
Yeah.
So I absolutely loved that. I'm going to be diving into yours. I want to know all about it.
Anything you need help with, I'm down.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, even with just going back to the weight loss thing, it's like, it's not and you know this as well as I, it's like, that's the thing is you go into the gym, you're like, okay, work out more, eat differently. It's like, it's not just about that.
No.
Then it's about, how are you at dinner with your husband? How are you eating food in the car because you hate your fucking job? You know what I mean? It's like, you really look at it so much more emotional and spiritual than people think.
Yeah, 100%. Now I want to talk about the Almost 30 podcast.
Oh yeah.
The wildly successful podcast that you co-founded with Lindsay. You've done 2 worldwide tours, over 100 million downloads, and you made the top 50 podcasts worldwide. Come on. Let's just say, come on. I love it. How do you balance a successful career in what you've achieved with podcasting, with prioritizing self-care and personal growth all at the same time? Like, do those 2 things mesh? You know, do they have to be separated? Like, what's the deal? Does one take from the other, or do they work out?
I feel like for me, and this might be unique to my life and my career, but because I'm in the personal growth and self-development space, it always feeds in. So if I do like a darkness retreat, it's content. And so it's kind of hard because then I'm always like content braining where I'm like, oh, I'm like, life's an experiment. I need to share this with my audience. Like, but it supports me in that. But you know, as a business owner, and I think especially as a public figure, like, I need to be right if I'm going to be running a business and it's going to be in public and I'm talking for hours a week. Like, if I'm not right, we're not successful. If I'm not right, people are going to know. If I'm not right, people won't listen. Like, it's actually crucial and instrumental for me to be mentally well, to be loving myself, to be at a place that feels like I can serve and be in service with people. So it's like a non-negotiable for my life to be in a space of love or care or relationship with myself.
Now, talking of service, what has been the most standout moment for you with the Almost 30 podcast? What's the moment that you're like, if I died tomorrow and I thought about, you know, you think about what you've achieved, what was the moment that you feel like changed it all?
I think I have a personal one and then a community-based one. I remember for me personally, what changed me is Lindsay and I were going through like a really hard time with the business. Like, it's hard to be a public figure. Like, it's amazing and the best, but like, people have opinions. Like, there's Reddit threads about my wedding. Like, it's just, people have stuff to say. And I remember this moment of just having a really hard time with it and having Lindsay, we were just in the room in our studio, and I was just going through. I was like, dude, this is just so hard. Like, I don't feel like I can take all the negative feedback sometimes. And she just grabbed my hands and she's like, you're my sister. Like, I just love you. And like, it felt like such a moment for me because I had so much guilt and shame that I was a bad person and that there was something wrong with me and that I wouldn't be loved because I was this thing. And to have someone be like, no, I love you still. And like, we're in this together. And like, no matter what people say about you or me, like, we've got each other. And so her being a example for me of how to be in relationship and like teach me to trust women and teach me to be a friend has been like absolutely worth everything that we've ever done for me.
Oh,
I know.
I feel really touched by that.
I know.
She's literally your safe space.
We've
got her coming on the podcast
You
next
do?
week. So I'm hoping she says the same thing about you.
Oh my God. Yeah, literally. What if she's like, yeah, you know, like.
She's a bitch.
Yeah, she's a bitch. No, she's taught me how to be in relationship. Like, I would even say like with my divorce, because I was able to feel how I felt with her, and it sounds like gross and like, you know, like we're dating, but it was like, I was able to feel safe in myself. It really showed me where I wasn't doing that in my marriage. And then for the podcast, you know, I remember this moment early on. It was so weird, but we had a Facebook group that was like a community where people would just pop off. And there was this girl in there that had this random brain cancer and was like, I just need to talk about this brain cancer. Like, I need to like vent about it. And like, it was so rare, so random. And then she had this other girl in the group that was like, I have that brain cancer too. And they were able to connect and they went on vacations and they became close and they like were each other's safe space. And it was like, I didn't even do anything, but the energy of this thing that we've created the opportunity for women to be like, this is who I am. This is what I need. This is what I'm going through. And we've had so many moments like that. I mean, it's just been like the biggest blessing to be a witness to women's healing. Yeah.
Wow. Like,
I mean, you do that every day, like with your work. It's like, isn't it the best?
But I think there's something to witness it when you've created the space.
Yeah.
You know, and you facilitated a space for that to happen. And it's not always having to come from you. And those people have come together because they're both seeking something very
similar. The best. There's nothing better.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Are you girls gonna be going on tour again?
Maybe when we do our book. So we finished our book this year and the book's gonna come out next year. And I think we'll go on tour with the book. But yeah, it's just, you know, Lindsay has a babe.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
New
like
mama.
She's doing her thing. So like we have to see where we're at. I'd love to go on tour again though.
Absolutely.
I had the freaking best time.
Love that. What are you reading at the moment?
Oh my gosh, great question. What am I reading? I just finished this book called The Art of Gathering. Have you heard it?
Never.
So it's cool. I would highly recommend it. I just finished it on my trip. So it's basically like about, it sounds so trite when I say it this way, but it's about how to host and facilitate a gathering and a space for people, how to facilitate connection and conversation. And essentially like at the gym, people are gathering. Like, how are you creating community with people? How are you making it valuable? And I know online and digitally or at the retreats, I'm creating gathering spaces. And I just felt like it was fascinating and interesting and had so many moments of things I've never thought of, but was like really, really good.
Were there a lot of things that you feel like you do intuitively?
I'm such an asshole.
That's fine.
I'm like, I'm already doing that.
Yeah, I could have written this.
But there was parts, yeah, literally. There was aspects of it that were just kind of good notes where it's like, when you host something, you should really be in charge.
Yes.
You're really facilitating. It's not like you're like hosting and you just kind of let everyone be. Like, you should really be facilitating.
And guiding them through the space.
Guiding them
What's
through
their
the space.
experience? How, you know, how are they being received?
Yep.
I agree. Where's the next travel destination? You just came back from Gay Paris.
I know, it's so good.
Oh, oui.
Next travel destination, I think in the next couple weeks I'll be in New York. So I go to New York with Lindsay every couple months. I'll be in New York for a few weeks, which will be amazing.
Fab.
I love to just stomp around the city.
Get it. Stomp around LA. Let's go.
I know.
Okay, Krista.
Okay.
We're going to wrap it up with a little game.
Okay.
This game is called Time or Divine. Time as in we're calling time on this shit.
Okay.
Or divine as in, yeah, we're all about it. Divine goddess, this is us, bring it home, let's go.
Okay.
So we're going to have a quick fire, 9 questions because it didn't print the 10th one. I can't remember what it is because I'm over 35. We're going to go a quick fire, 9 questions. Don't think about it too much.
Okay.
And just fire it back at me. Time or divine.
Okay. I hope I get it because I think I'll get it when you ask me the question. I'm like smart but slow, so
Let's find out, shall we?
Okay, let's go.
Let's find out how fast she really is.
Yeah, honestly.
Alcohol.
Time.
Reading.
Divine.
Community.
Divine.
New love.
Divine, baby.
Tarot.
Divine.
I can't wait for you to do my tarot, by the way.
Oh, I would love to.
Binging.
Time.
Oh.
It's kind of fun sometimes.
Working out.
Divine.
Intuitive eating.
Divine.
Netflix.
Divine sometimes.
Oh, really?
It's time, but like, I mean, every once in a while you just need to cruise.
I feel
and
like
be on Earth.
I feel like that one was the one that's going to catch you, because I feel like Netflix is kind of the same as like binging.
For sure.
Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
It's like, what are you consuming on that?
Every once in a while, though, I'm like, I just need a break.
Yeah, you just need a bit of Married at First Sight.
I've done too much Married at First Sight.
Well, the problem is there's like 26 episodes.
Girl.
Or 26 like.
There was too much, honestly. I was like, I've seen this apartment you guys too much. It was like too much. I was like, you're in the hot tub now. I'm like,
yeah.
It was actually like making me mad. And I had to stop because I'm like, what are the messages I'm telling myself about marriage?
Absolutely.
By watching this.
Absolutely.
I'm like, I'm going to be single for the rest of my life if I'm doing this.
We'll detox together then, by the sounds of it.
I'm so grateful you're a maths girl.
Lindsay, I say Lindsay. Krista, that's a wrap for us on the Slay podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
This is so much fun.
You're an absolute legend. Can we hang out sometime?
I would love to.
I love it.
I would love to.
And we can go and buy tracksuits together and rustle around.
Yeah, we can rustle around our little chair. I was like, I have the perfect outfit for today. When I saw your thing, it was like athleisure wear. I'm like, I've got it covered.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're the best. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.
In summary, I heard a quote once that said, "Be the love that you never received." That concludes this episode of Say. Stay tuned for more empowering discussions on female health, fitness, and life. You can follow me at Louise Hazel on social media, and you can follow Krista at It's Krista Now. Check out the Slay brand at Slay Athletic, and don't forget to subscribe to the Slay podcast if you haven't done so already on Spotify, and leave us a review. You can also get all of the tools and resources that we mention on our podcast in the Slay app. You can download that now for free from the App Store and join our online community. Just a quick one, Krista. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love you in our little Slay hat. That's for you, by the way.
I was like, it better be because it's covered in makeup now.
I love it. Okay, go ahead.
I was like, yay.
Just a quick one. We can add this in. Tell us where we can find you and what projects you've got coming up next.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram. Like you said, it's Krista. So it's ITSKRISTA. I do a body transformation program called Metamorphosis, where all my body ideas and methodologies I do with a live group. And then I have my retreats. I have one in October in Ibiza, which is going to be beautiful.
Come on.
Girl, it's going to be it's so good and juicy.
Where is it? Six Senses?
Yeah.
Wicked.
It is sick. I'll hook you up if you ever need a contact. And it's Krista.com, and then Almost 30 is great.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, darling.
This was so much fun. And I've got my Slay hat. I'm so happy.
Yes, you have.